I don't know. And we're live.
Welcome to the Hanging Out podcast.
I got you that time. I got you.
I had to make the look, and it let me down this time.
It let you down that we're live?
Yeah, it did. I'm Bear, and that's Alan, and we're hanging out.
Is that the intro? That's a bad intro. It feels really forced.
It is really forced.
We're going to try a new intro every week now, just to see which one sticks. I actually am going to write a theme song and learn to play 2 chords on the guitar.
Said the man who told me that podcasts with an intro theme are stupid and he hates them.
I don't want you to put words in my mouth at all, especially I never call anything stupid.
You said those words when I said, let's have a theme song.
I hate podcasts with theme songs unless it's like something different or relevant every time. Like, don't give me like Mike Rose is cool. It's like 1 second of a guitar. But like if you have a theme song like a TV show every time, man, I hate that. What's up, Bear?
I'm still recovering from those talks we had.
Bear's recovering from something else.
I wouldn't say recovering. I would say since we finished talking to those strange men, I've been doing more work than ever.
I have not. But it's not for lack of wanting.
You've at least had the ideas.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just lost.
All those...
I feel really lost. I feel like I had my feet planted and then the ground was pulled out from under me and I've yet to find any sort of handhold. I feel very lost and honestly uneducated about the prospects of my career. I feel horrified.
That's pretty bleak. Out of either of us, you should be the most hopeful. I mean,
you know, it is a sense of hopefulness because, like, I know that I went back and looked at a lot of stories that I like, you know, success stories and about people building something, and I find that, and I've talked about this on the show before. I used to think that success came from a point of being maybe feeling cornered and somebody giving the ability to, kind of without choice, to forced to give their best or lose it all. And I don't think that's true at all. Now, I wonder if success stems from the ability to just be utterly lost. I think everyone we talked to kind of had that in common. At one point in their career, they felt at a point of so utterly fed up or lostness or like letting themselves go, taking risks enough, like Donato. That's where their success always came from. Was not knowing what's going to happen next.
I think a big part of it was being comfortable with that, but I think the largest part was the amount of effort that they chose to put forth. I mean, it's not like anyone that we talked to had an overwhelmingly unique opportunity at any point or an unfair advantage. What made the difference was the amount of work that they put into it.
Right. None of the scenarios had someone coming forward and being like, I would like to make you successful. You just have to do this one thing. That never happened.
No,
actually,
I mean,
the opposite happened. If you talk to like Todd or Pete.
Yeah, we talked to Pete, and he had a very unfortunate experience at school, but yet it's still extremely successful. And I think he's an extreme case of the amount of effort he put into his work. And I mean, look at the payout.
Yeah, I wish I should have got him to talk about some numbers on the podcast. You can go listen to his podcast, One Fantastic Week. He talks about numbers on there. Well, very successful.
That's another unique thing about the 4 people we talked to is each one kind of, they're great artists, but they also talked with knowledge, or they have knowledge of these other fields. Like Pete with art business, he's extremely intelligent in that, and he dedicates the time and effort to study it, and it makes him a better artist in turn. And you saw Donato, I mean, he was talking about studying history and all these other fields that he's interested in, and I think that's a big thing not to overlook is art is just the vehicle, and these guys are spending time studying other things outside of art that they're actually interested in.
That's true. You get to a good point there that I don't think anyone really hit on besides Donato in so few words, is that art is a vehicle for art is I have always believed art to be communication, but you that's a good analogy. Art's a vehicle for something else. What do you like? What are you interested in? And that's something that seems incredibly simple at first, but I had a hard time with it, and I think I'm getting closer. So, and it's never an answer. It can't be an answer. You can't have a definitive answer to what your art is. I think that kind of like Joseph Campbell's failure of the modern myth, the second that you have a solidified answer to your question, then you've stopped having the ability to wander.
True.
You failed. Bear, what are you doing right now? What questions are you answering right now?
Oh man, I've actually narrowed my ideas down quite a bit to actual paintings, but I think what I'm exploring is, like for instance, the piece I'm working on right now is going to be about killing your traditions, and I don't know. I'm in between exploring that and dreams. Honestly, every morning Kelsey and I tell each other our dreams, and it sets me up with these nice stories that I try to play on with this killing your traditions theme, and how I can bring the imagery from the dreams and the idea of kill your traditions together.
Kind of reminds me of Pete's. I don't know if you know this. Pete's wife, Anya Moorbacher, did a Kickstarter. There was like 100 Nights of Dreams or something like that, where she just illustrated her dream once a day. And I think Annie Gerard's, Justin's wife, recent Kickstarter, it wasn't about their dreams, but doing something a day must have stemmed from experiences or something.
I've been trying to pull from my dreams for a while, because I have really vivid, nice dreams almost every night, and I don't know, it's a nice place to go to get images that you wouldn't normally find.
Yeah, because they're affecting you personally. Well, you did a piece on death.
And I finished a big piece on death.
It's about death.
The other piece I'm working on is opposite to that, is going to be life, but
I swear I woke up the other night and I saw that image staring at me across the room, and that was it. I was done sleeping.
It's pretty creepy in here in the living room. I set it up to take pictures and left it in here, and when all the lights are off, that face just kind of glows at you.
Maybe it's actually glowing. Some oil paints actually glow.
It could be. I got that going. I stretched to canvas Friday, painted on it. I think I've got 3 in the works right now. Big ones.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. I feel like I've been falling behind. I'm going to step it up. I get back into a schedule. I got to start working again. I can ask as many questions as I want, but if there's nothing going with it, who cares?
Well, I always go back to Chuck Close saying my best work came out of work itself. And I've never found that more true than right now. I've just been working and steady working, and out of my sketches come more and more ideas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I should probably start sketching more. That's one thing I've really wanted to do over the last few days, is like, what do I want? And I should know, I can't figure that out with my thoughts or words or writing, because I'm not any of those things. I'm an artist, so I just sketch. I should just sketch. When's the last time I or anyone else just spent an hour doing free form thought sketching?
Every day, Tuesday through Thursday.
So, good on you. I bet there's plenty of people that don't do that.
It's really beneficial. For technique purposes, it's great, and for getting ideas out, because I think about myself. I'm a visual thinker. I take a lot of notes when I'm sketching, but I gotta be drawing the forms to be getting the idea out.
I guess my thumbnails are kind of like that. I really like doing my thumbnails. Thumbnail days for me are an insane artistic explosion of me, probably with a glass of bourbon, or like, usually I hit the ground. I don't like to watch things whenever I have a thumbnailing day. I don't watch anything. I have my coffee. I get started sketching, and I'm usually just barely eating and going through until the evening until I get something done. And it's just constant idea generation. So it's kind of like that, but it's not on a daily basis.
Well, what's your process now?
I do the thumbnails, and then I take photo reference, and then I use my photo reference to create a mock-up, and then I gather reference and use the reference to affect what I want.
Since we talked to Pete, I've been thinking a lot about process and how he talked about the process is his favorite part, but it made me go back and think about what part of making art do I like the most, you know? So I went and I really evaluated my process and made some changes to incorporate more of the stuff that I really enjoy instead of the technical stuff that I know that works.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe I have to do a few more steps, but I'm going to enjoy it more and it's going to have my mark more.
Well, I did Pete's Patreon where you can download his PSDs. He will change an entire painting midway through, and that scares the hell out of me.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm just not that kind of person. Maybe I need to be. Maybe saying that really grounds me in a place I don't need to be, but that doesn't make me feel comfortable, and I wouldn't enjoy it, so I'm just staying away from it right now. I think one day I'll do a painting with the forethought ahead of time to just change something drastic about it halfway through. I've done that before. It leads to some really nice things, but only when necessity calls. If a painting's going well, I'll just let it go well. I'm not going to fight it.
Well, I can't lie. The looser you've gotten with your work, the better it's gotten. It's just like we were talking with Donato about incorporating that abstraction. Your process is so loose in the early stages.
Yeah. Thinking back, I wish I had saved a lot of my underpaintings that are more crazy, but I never know if it's something people would enjoy, so I never screenshot them, or like I'm so scared of them. Like I will just straight take, I was telling someone the other day, I take like geometric patterns and throw them over and then overlay some rust and then blah, 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 and it just doesn't even look like a painting.
Well, you know, I instinctively, when I see an artist work that I like, the first thing I want to know is what does the underpainting look like?
Yeah, I think artists really enjoy underpaintings for that reason. We just like to know their thought process. How crazy were they? That's why I love Anagoni. What was that guy's name? Something Anagoni.
I have no idea.
Is that his name? Was it Anagoni? Anyway, we talked about it with Duncan. If you have not looked at Anagoni's paintings, look at them. They are like 3 inches deep because he would fill the canvas with so much paint, and he would literally cut into his paintings for the eyes and just eating paint, probably getting high on heroin at the time. But his paintings are miraculous. I mean, I don't know. He really goes crazy on those things. But like the fluidity and naturalism of it is just amazing.
I can definitely recommend eating your paints.
Don't.
I've made a new type of oil wash, and man, it's a lot of fun.
What is it?
I can't tell you.
You can.
It's mostly a lot of walnut oil, but it's so nice. I love oil washes. Man, the color you can just rip out of there is beautiful.
Yeah, most people I know end up creating what works for them, which is kind of neat because there's no one way. Like Todd liked liquid with a little bit of turpentine. Dan Dos Santos does, I think, is it sunflower oil or pine oil? I don't know, with half and half turpentine. Donato does like Venetian turpentine with 2 other types of things. Everyone has something different.
Yeah, walnut's my favorite. I don't know many other people that paint with walnut oil.
It's too thin for me.
That's why I love it.
It's so thin. It's like water. I always prefer thicker stuff. I like thick paint. Did I lose you?
I'm here, man.
What are you doing?
I was thinking about your thick paint. What's going on, man?
Is that what you're gonna do? You're just gonna throw it back on me? I just got back. I finished a painting.
That's how it's been ever since we talked to Donato. Once we finished that last one, my mind has just been firing off on every idea.
I finished Lord of the Rings painting really quick.
That was a great piece. I recommend everyone to go look at that one.
Everyone enjoyed that. I went to Anglicon. I didn't really go. My art was in Anglicon. It's a small convention out of the Seattle airport. The Doubletree Hotel by Hilton, I think, out of the Seattle airport.
Did you get any feedback on that piece?
Yeah, everyone, I guess, liked it.
Hey, print it out. It looked great.
It does look nice printed out. I sold my first online sale. I think people assume that I make sales online, but I don't. This is my first one. I know some things about selling online, but I don't have the audience or paintings to put them in place. I feel really tired. I'm just gonna say that if I'm not making any sense, it's because I feel exhausted.
That's fine. This is the Hanging Out podcast, everyone. We're here to hang out.
We'll just be quiet. Please fill the silence.
No, I'm just waiting.
What are you waiting on? What do you want me to say?
I'm waiting for Todd to just miraculously walk through the door.
I took care of that. Don't worry.
Where do you think we ended on education? I don't think we ended anywhere. I don't even know if I think every episode we escaped the topic of education.
Yeah, we definitely ended on everyone's educational needs are on a decidedly individual level, and you can't really give any answers to it. You should probably figure it out for yourself. Also, take risks. Also, don't go to the arts institutes. Yeah, that's what I got.
That's all you got?
Ask a lot of questions. Be interested in a lot of things. Work endlessly and tirelessly. And if you don't enjoy the work that you're doing, change that shit or get out of art. Get out of my industry.
Yeah, that's just about everyone we talked to at one point was doing something that they didn't care about, and they had a moment of like, oh, I should be painting this instead.
And then they're successful.
I think that's another important trend. And you see it in more than just the people we talk to. You spend a career painting just what you know will make money instead of taking the chance on your own work making money.
Yeah, I was talking to an artist this weekend, and she was saying things like, oh yeah, well, I did this because I knew that sold well or this sold well. And it was like, oh man, this is all wrong. I don't understand. You're doing the work because the reason you're doing the work is because you always enjoyed this type of creative process, but you're creating to sell. I mean, so at some point in there, you switched gears completely, and that was kind of weird. But I don't think she'll ever realize that I don't think anyone's words will make those kinds of people realize it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I can't. Even in the past few months, I've noticed I've had greater reception to my original paintings and the things that I'm actually interested in than any other piece of work I've put out. Like my personal work gets more attention and more reception.
Yeah, well, it goes on, let's say that you do, I don't know, a Lord of the Rings painting. And then people come up and they like Lord of the Rings, right? They feel Lord of the Rings makes them happy. So maybe they buy it, or maybe they enjoy the process that you put into it. Yeah. But then they're going to go enjoy other Lord of the Rings things because you're not the only Lord of the Rings guy, right? That's just from a marketing standpoint. You've got that's some pretty heavy competition. From a creative standpoint, you've given your vision to Lord of the Rings. That's valid, right? Your vision's pretty valid, and so if you have a unique enough vision towards that end, people are going to really respond to that. Such as Donato, who gives an incredibly unique take on Lord of the Rings, and people really responded to that. But let's say you come out with something truly original, then because it's something you like, it's the way that you feel, right? Something you connect with personally. So if someone walks up to your painting and enjoys that because it touches a deeper part of themselves that they didn't even maybe they knew about it, and you're connecting with that, then you've connected with them on such a deeper level, right? This is something I like. It's not just something I know. I don't even know why I like it. I just like this. And then they're there forever. They're going to watch you forever because they get you.
Forever.
You know each other. It's like Todd saying he walked into a room and found all of his people. I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's I think a good analogy is music, and I find myself going back and listening to the same album over and over. Well, it's like that one artist just happens to strike a chord that resonates with me in a way that no one else does. And I think that can definitely happen in visual art, but it goes overlooked. It's a strong connection.
Yeah, that's extremely true. Go listen to something like Cake or the Mountain Goats, and at first you're going to be like, oh, I don't really get what this guy's saying. He's kind of weird. I don't really like him. Guess what? They make a lot of money, so a lot of people really resonate with them. Be more true to yourself. Whatever.
Whatever. Get
Comedians. Comedians are like the one. Rick and Morty. Off-color humor, black humor, where people say just ridiculous and unfounded. The entire idea behind Curb Your Enthusiasm is that Larry David is saying things the rest of us think but don't act on, and it is an incredibly successful show because of it. Because he's affecting what people believe. Anyway, I think that's why Seinfeld was so successful. Comedy. If you really want to get into like how to connect with people, I think comedy and music.
Yeah, if you want to slingshot yourself to success, make funny paintings.
Yeah, well, I mean, comedy takes really quick wit. It takes being able to connect with people on a personal level. Music, I think, takes the same thing. You have to be able to look past the norm. When you go to a comedy show, you're not just talking to your best friend, you know? Your best friend's free, and they're probably just going to talk about regular stuff like work, like what we're talking about right now. You go to a comedy show, you're going to be entertained on a really personal level for a while. And if you're not going to go back to that comedy show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you get what I'm saying here.
I get what you're saying, but so you're working on your Gold Star series now. Would you say these pieces, I mean, I see you work on them. How are you trying to make that intimate connection through these pieces? Yeah,
I think I threw a knife and then it came back and it hit me. I think I missed the mark completely. But like, that's fine. You know, I created, I think the first 3 paintings here, and each of them had a target in mind and totally missed it. And I think that's fine because now I know what not to do. I'm going to accept that failure. Say, look, these are still some paintings that have some truth to them. Look at them. But then I'm going to dive into something else and be like, wow, these are cool too. And hopefully subtly adjusting along the way, I can get to something that feels really true to me. It's kind of like what I said the other day. You know, if I spend four years working on this, you know, I'm 26 years old by the time I'm 30. If I spend 4 straight years working on Gold Star and I never get anywhere with it, like, that's fine because I've also become a really good painter who's probably more in tune with himself.
I would think so. That's the great part of this profession is every piece you grow a little.
Right. Yeah. No, really. So, I mean, if you go out and if you were to go to a show tomorrow and take your death piece and nobody wanted to buy it and no one connected with it or blah, 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 then you would come back. You have 2 choices. You can either say, oh, I really messed up and I went in a bad direction and maybe I need to rethink things, or in like a really negative way. Or you can take that positively and be like, you know what? I still had a vision here that maybe people aren't reciprocating. Let me find a better way to dive into that.
Well, yeah. And that, again, feeds into conversation with Donato. He was talking about doing work outside of school that he was interested in because no one in school cared about his interest, you know?
Yeah, that's definite. And then also doing the work they wanted him to do. I really liked what Donato said about getting out and finding other things. That's like the one missing piece to Pete's really in-depth lecture was
Yep.
that the entire thing started because they needed, they do need to enjoy the process, but it started because he likes the material he's painting too. And Donato said, go out and figure out what you enjoy in life. And that's something that, Pete told me a long time ago. He was like, yeah, you need to figure out what you're going to paint now. And it's like, well, that's a really hard question. But if Donato says, I'll go out into life and tell me what you enjoy, that's a really easy question. What do you like? What do you enjoy, Bear?
I don't like anything.
All right. And that's our show, folks. We'll see you next week.
I'm never happy.
And that's why you painted a skull.
Exactly.
All right. No, that's not why you painted a skull, but it gets to
I
a
think
point of it.
this series of paintings, it's based off my interest, but not in such a casual way. I think it's more based off of my philosophical interest, I guess.
That's fine.
Spiritual interest.
Yeah, that's fine.
And, hopefully there's some, I know there's some people asking the same questions, and maybe that's what'll resonate, hopefully.
Well, for instance, I really enjoy like Romeo and Juliet style tragedies.
Yeah.
But like that's not something someone can actually enjoy. You're looking at a play or story where two 15-year-olds kill themselves. I mean, that's a terrible story. It's a well-written story, but it's a really don't like that. It's a terrible circumstance. But like I like the philosophy behind that, and I can really dive into that. Same with Lord of the Rings. Like not necessarily the happiest story. Connects with a lot of people. You don't have to like it on a really happy level.
I don't like it on any level.
So,
but I get where you're going.
Yeah. Just what you're interested in, I think, maybe more so.
Yeah, it's that. And I was lucky to have, even in my sketchbook, since I'm such a poor draftsman, a lot of notes. So I have a whole bank of ideas to draw on. It's just been in these past months as I've gotten better, more talented, I can actually convey them correctly.
Yeah. And then that'll grow. I wouldn't be surprised, when you paint something like your portrait of death to you, in 10 years, that'll probably come back. I think Donato's painted like the same thing 50 times.
Well, that's how it happens. Is I'll write down a whole set of ideas for paintings or emotions or scenes that I want to portray, and then I'll go back a month or two later and flip through my sketchbook and go through the list. Be like, okay, I think I can tackle that one now, and make it happen.
Oh, it's like you said, right? You're painting 10 paintings ahead. You're already done with the painting you're working on right now, technically.
Yeah,
bring it to finish. Take those ideas and lessons to the next painting.
I'm lucky that in my process, I usually start with the idea and the colors. So I have my palette and everything sorted when I start.
Yeah.
The rest is just composition and technical know-how.
Yeah, I always say, like, I kind of hate when people ask me how to paint because the how of it is surprisingly easy. Like, once I've got the idea down, like that Lord of the Rings painting, I mean, it took something to know for me to say, what do I think Aragorn and Legolas look like? Legolas. But, but to actually paint a belt or paint some skin tones is not that hard to do if you want to make it look realistic. People like Nick Alm and Jeremy Mann capture it on a different level, but I bet they would tell you that actually the actual painting of the thing is the easiest part.
I would agree, and it's interesting how easy it is to get that information. I mean, I think just now you have all of that information from Pete, those Photoshop documents. I have those tutorials from Dave, Donato's tutorials. We've watched other people paint and learned from them. You watch all these people paint and you learn that way, and then no matter what, you take from each one and make your own little process there to make the same thing.
Yeah, I always kind of jokingly, but it's also pretty true. Like, you remember we were in graphics class, and like the first 2 days of class, it was like, here's all the tools, and that was all the teaching. That was really all the teaching. I don't know about you.
It was figure the rest out.
You can learn, and then the rest is like lessons, like go do this thing. So you can learn all the tools. So anyway, I jokingly say I can teach someone everything I actually know about painting in like a day.
Yeah.
The act of laying paint down, I can teach them that. I can probably teach them everything I know about light and shadow and color and all this stuff, but they're not going to get it.
No, well, I think
easy.
Dave Raposa makes a great point in his tutorials where he does everything freehand right there, does character design perfect out of his head. And while he was talking about it, he says, you know, I couldn't always do this. You know, if you want to draw a scarf, you need to go look at scarves and draw scarves until you know what you're doing. You want to draw a hand, you need to go look at hands and draw it. Because my process is something I made by doing that, and you need to do the same thing to make your own process.
Yeah. Figure out what you like, then draw it 1,000 times. If you really like, Da Vinci spent like 3 years just painting or just drawing cloth because he wanted to know how it laid on the body. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I think it's great.
What is 3 years?
Maxwell Parrish would project images of cloth and just spend days drawing it over and over until he understood it.
Yeah. So, there. Do that. I'm going to do that.
Just stop being lazy is what everyone's trying to say.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the consistent thing that we got out of this is figure out what you enjoy and then go do it. It's really that simple, I think. And if you're not doing it, then figure out why you're not doing it. Ask yourself if you enjoy it. You probably don't. Go figure out what you enjoy and do that instead.
Yeah, and pursue it with maximum effort.
I think you're not... did Pete say this? I don't think Pete said this on the podcast, but he said it to me. He said, every time someone tells me they want to do something, I have to question it because it's like, well, if you want to do that, then why aren't you doing it? Like, I could sit here all day and be like, oh, yeah, I really want to do these gold star paintings, but, guess what I did this week? Not that. Do I really want to do that? Not right now. Maybe as I continue, maybe I should do something else. That probably means I should do something else.
Just do some paintings, man.
No, I was asking for advice. I'm just saying, like, people, if you're not putting your all into something, change gears very quickly. You don't have to change the project completely, but say, what's wrong and how, and should I be tackling this with everything I have? Because you should. Yeah. That's what it takes.
It sounds like laziness is a sign that you just aren't interested.
Right. Yeah. If you're like, if you wanted to paint metal, for instance, and then but you really didn't want to put in the time to go do 10 studies of metal real fast and learn just simple things about how metal reacts with scratches and dents and blah, 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 and how it reflects. You probably didn't actually want to paint metal.
Not for the right reasons.
Like, do you want to learn how to paint a really sexy girl? Well, do you want to paint 10 of them? No? Well, you probably don't want to actually do that.
You can keep your DeviantArt account, though.
I think that's actually pretty... Yeah, we still got to get an erotic artist on to talk you out of all this. No. But I think people, Do you really want to go through the struggle of learning? Do you love the struggle? I think is what we come back to again and again as artists, as creators who have to constantly be personally critiquing where they are.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, do you love the struggle enough to take it all the way to the end?
You know, we talk about our first ever episode was on fitness. Uh, do you want to be a healthy? Do you want to be a really buff person? All right. Well, do you want to go to the gym 2 hours a day, 5 days a week? No? All right. Well, maybe you don't want to be a buff person. You know, you don't actually want that because that's what it takes. You talked about how people who go to competitions have to be extremely dehydrated and the work they have to put into all of this and the eating alone. And it's like, well, maybe people don't actually want to do that. They just think they do. People are bad at knowing themselves.
Oh, it's true. Um, I mean, even on a college team, when I was swimming, you see that very quickly. People that don't want to be there, they'll find a way to be injured, or they'll find a way to miss practice, or do whatever they can to preserve the image of being there, but they don't actually want to be there, and it affects their whole life moving forward until they readjust. So,
Yeah.
happiness
No.
as an artist.
Yeah. What makes you happy? What do you want? When people ask me things, I used to say, are you comfortable with doing this 8 hours a day every day? And have you ever done that? And if you can't, then probably don't be an artist. I'm not saying that art takes 8 hours every day. I'm saying you should want to do it 8 hours every day.
It's all I think about. I was supposed to help Kelsey carry something out the door this morning, and she told me 1 minute, and I completely forgot because I was thinking about a painting.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah, you probably should have. What was that about people faking injuries? I think maybe you just didn't want to. You didn't really want to help her carry that out of the door. Otherwise, you would have done it.
It's something I've really been shooting for, is just only thinking about art and making art, and it's a state of mind. I think it's a doable thing, and it's improved my workflow so much.
My father is a farmer, and if you ask him, he would. And it's astounding to me. Who knows what he could have or would have been? But when he got out of high school, he wanted to be a carpenter, right? Well, he went into carpentry. It paid like $2-3 an hour. Being a mechanic paid like $5 an hour. So he stopped being a carpenter. He gave up his dream to go support a family. And then sooner or later, he became a farmer. He's been farming for years and years now, as long as I've been alive, which is 26 years. And now, whether we're driving to Florida or we're driving north, south, east, west, doesn't matter, driving around, my dad's eye is a very dangerous driver. He's always looking left and right at the fields or the trees or whatever's going on. And even though he would still tell you he works to support his family, I can guarantee you that my father loves farming because it's all he ever thinks about.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Like, I don't think he actually wanted to be a carpenter. He's not always thinking about carpentry. Or maybe he could have been a great carpenter. Maybe the same facets are in there. But as he's learned about farming, he just loves to look at it and wonder things about it, like always. And I don't know, it's kind of me with art. I love thinking about art. I love thinking about tones. I ask questions to myself all the time I don't know the answer to. Should I be an artist? I don't know. I really don't know. Man, I really don't know shit.
That's okay. You don't have to know anything. It doesn't have to be so complicated either.
No, I'm okay with it. If you know exactly what you want, I would say get really uncomfortable real fast. Find a way to get really uncomfortable. Test it. If it's really easy to say you believe something if it's never tested.
I think what's most important for me is if you know what you want, is to find a way to start making the greatest volume of work possible immediately.
Yeah. I mean,
even if the images are bad, it's like that Ira Glass quote. You're going to write your stories in the beginning, right? And they're going to be bad, and that's okay. Well, you're going to do your drawings, and they're going to be bad, but you got to explore every single idea.
Yeah. Make a lot of bad art.
That's the whole point.
Make 3 bad art.
Yeah.
No. No, make 5 or 8, 10. Make only bad art.
That's the only way you'll know. And people, I'm sure, know your work as being fairly realistic, but looking at your thumbnails, they're just smudges on these little squares. And I don't think people realize how simple it can be just starting.
Yeah. Well,
that was something that intimidated me when I was first starting out. Was I'd look at a painting, or I'd be thinking of a painting, and even just doing the initial underpainting and the sketch, it seemed like such a daunting task. But as you simplify that process more, it eases the anxiety going into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you plan 100 paintings, then it turns out life and humans are really habitual. Like, if there's something you're scared of the first time and then you do it 100 times, just dive right into something, and then sooner or later you won't be scared of it. If you swim with sharks every day, your entire life, sooner or later you're not going to be scared of sharks. I mean, it's really that simple.
Then you're going to get ate by a shark.
I didn't say don't respect it. You should have great respect for what you do. But, lion taming, producing, directing, acting, pretty much any career or any job.
Unless you work at the DMV.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of the same thing. They get really habitual and then stop being good at their jobs. Don't stop being good at your job. Just do it to a point where you become comfortable with your job. And then get yourself into a point of uncomfortable again. Like, it's a constant state of evolution. When you were in school, you didn't say, well, I want to learn how to do math or write, right? Well, what's 2 plus 2? Well, it's 4. All right, I'm done. I learned math. I learned addition. That's fine. No, you also learned subtraction and multiplication. And as you grew older, you got into algebra. You learned quantitative reasoning, the quadratic equation. Like, you built on things constantly. So why in art do you see so many people say, this is exactly where I want to be, and then just kind of stopping and never asking? Every time I see someone whose art isn't there yet, it's because they're afraid to push it farther for some reason, and it drives me crazy. Because I think I could see that in my own work earlier.
It's a complex point, and I think part of it is driven by greed, and part of it is also the nature of illustration. People are just happy with their illustration style and say, okay.
I don't know.
But I get where you're coming from. I want to be in a gallery space, and that takes constantly changing. I mean, the people I look up to, every year their work is completely different from the year before. Just variations on a theme, but the language is constantly developing. But I see a lot of illustrators and maybe more comic people and graphic illustrators that, their style is their style, and that's it. Well,
people get scared, and I have no idea why. It really doesn't make any sense, because you're just, time, I guess, if putting some marks on a piece of paper. I tell people, like, hey, do you want to learn how to paint hands? Well, go paint hands just paint like 10 hands. It'll take you like a week. But then they won't do it. It's like, well, it was just a week. Why aren't you doing that? Why are you so scared of this? Like, you don't really want to do this. And I know I'm circling back here, but it drives me crazy. And like, you're talking about gallery art, how they have to change constantly because of the market, right? They have to constantly stay relevant, and their ideas are constantly changing. And once they've sold one thing or come out with one show, they're like, what do I have to say next? Because you always have to transform because you're a living being. I don't know. And then, so when I see people who aren't transforming, it's like, it drives me fucking crazy. And I think it should, because they're the same kind of people. I don't know.
It's the nature of the field, and you're such an exclusion because you are such a fine artist that it's, I mean, there aren't many people in the field, fantasy illustration, that have those same ideals when they approach their work.
I think that being able to constantly transform makes someone a good teacher. Being
Absolutely.
unsure makes someone a good teacher. You know, when we were talking about it, bringing it back to education, I talked, my friend Chance had to teach people how to be a pilot, had to teach them to fly. And one thing he told me is that when you're teaching someone, you always want to come off as an expert that they're listening to. You don't want to say you're unsure. And yet, Duncan was the greatest art teacher because he was so unsure of his actions, and in the ideas of exploration, and sending that emotion into us or imparting that onto us was like the greatest gift he ever gave. Like, I don't know.
He was able to really challenge our work in a honest and fierce way.
Yeah, I think so. Without seeming to be fierce, too, you know? Well, Duncan, should I do this? I don't know. Let's find out. Here's some information on it. Let's go figure this out.
Or just walking up behind you and saying, you're not done. Keep going.
You're not done. Yeah. Why would you say? It's even easier with digital painting. Save it to a different file and then do some weird stuff to it. It's fine.
Well, again, it all goes back to interest, and just from what I saw at Spectrum, there's such a wide array of interest in what people want to do with their art in that domain. I can see where when you're doing commercial work, you kind of lose the drive to develop personal ideas. I mean, if you're happy just doing that commercial work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that path has the easiest education path. I mean, you just learn to paint and then get good at it and have people tell you what to paint.
Well, you know what's weird is that getting hired for those kinds of jobs takes an already put together portfolio that has to have a personal voice in it. And then, like, it's such a catch-22. It's like, okay, I want to work for your company. Cool. Give me a portfolio of all your personal work. All right, so you do that. You go out, you learn a personal vision, you craft it, you bring it back, and they're like, okay, now paint all this stuff that we want you to paint. It's like, oh, okay. I guess the first part didn't really matter. I mean, it matters in that it gets you chosen. And if you're Donato, I guess you can be successful in bringing that vision to fruition. I've actually heard plenty of stories where Donato has refused to change things about paintings because he just doesn't want to.
I like it.
There was one, the Foreigner series. He did a painting. I don't know if the story's true or not. Bear with me. He did a painting, and they were like, oh, they look too much like black people, like pygmies or something like that. I don't know. And he was like, well, I like them that way. They seem really alien, and I'm not going to change it. I was like, oh. I wish more people were like that, you know?
Well, he was probably right, and he's in a powerful enough position to put his foot down, because what are they going to do? Fire him?
What are they going to do? Fire them? You know, you hired someone for that personal vision. I think I'm so glad we're leaning farther away from the art director, commissioner system. Because I think that artists, man, the things Norman Rockwell did when he was left to his own designs were outstanding. The Four Freedoms are like are America's greatest paintings, and they're championed. But like his Saturday Evening Post ones are just okay. But the Four Freedoms were ridiculous.
We're at a really interesting illustration crossroads, I think, because we're at a point where the original goal was I want to paint for Magic cards. Like we talked to Josh that he wanted to paint some Magic cards, and he did it, and it was great. And that was the way to make money if you wanted to be a fantasy illustrator, and of course book covers and all of that. But then now we're at a point where there's Patreon and ways for you to be an independent artist, and if your ideas are strong enough to carry your own weight with your own audience. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the freelance market.
Yeah, I see a lot happening to it. If I had to make a prophecy, I'd say in 10 years, most of it's going to be just like photo bashing or photography, and artists are going to be creating stuff for Patreon and Kickstarter to fully support themselves. I want it to be that way. That's why I'm calling it.
I think it might lead to more in-house illustrators.
Really?
For a lot of companies. I think they're going to see the gap and say, we got to offer enough reason for people to come in here and work for us.
I think both. I think that you're going to see a big boom like you are right now of artists being self-supportive on Kickstarter and Patreon with their own projects. And then artists are going to dwindle. I mean, people say there are always going to be people who are willing, but like, I think that in-house companies are going to boost their prices and a shit ton and be like, okay, fine, we'll pay you more. Maybe.
Plus benefits.
Who knows what happens to gallery art? I still don't understand gallery art. I think it's fully controlled by whoever buys it, so I really don't care for it anymore.
I've got an interesting article that I'll put a link out for that later on my own Facebook, I guess.
I mean,
I'll send it to you. It's about art as a commodity and the big New York galleries controlling the flow of work.
Right. You know, they kind of choose what's popular.
But fortunately, there's a lot of smaller galleries that really pick up talented artists. So it has its ups and downs, like every field, you know.
Yeah, like illustration. How long have we been talking? I wish there were time on this thing.
We're hanging out.
I do. I gotta.
We've been talking for an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Tired Alan.
It felt like we were talking for an hour after 5 minutes.
Tired, cranky Alan. Wants you to know to get to work because come on, guys.
Every Monday.
What's your
on
excuse?
My case. I'm recording a podcast.
Everybody needs to be working right now. Come on.
So, you know, some people listen to podcasts at the gym.
That's really strange.
That is really strange to me.
Don't listen to us at the gym, please.
Yeah, listen to like some cool music. You know, studies show that if you listen to the right music, it can give you more productivity at the gym.
I've experienced it.
I think everyone has, and they wondered it. Well, science proved it. You know what? Science did disprove something. If there's someone behind you telling you that, oh, my grandmother can lift more than you, it actually makes you work less at the gym.
Yeah, you need someone like me just screaming at you, which happened a lot.
Yeah, it actually makes people work less.
Sorry. It worked for me.
Sorry.
I coached the most successful team in school history. Thank you. So
in school history, in all of school history.
More screaming means more better athletes, stronger,
right,
faster, fitter.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with the familial impact of feeling comfortable, or like you had to prove something to the team versus, you know. I'm just saying.
We had a lot of people quit.
We should do an illustration boot camp.
Okay.
I would walk around and be Duncan, and you would walk around and scream at people, which I think is valid. They do need to be screamed at. You know, you can scream like, "Do you really want to be here? Why don't you leave? Why don't you just cry about it and leave?"
If you've never been yelled at in your life, like in your face, I'm not gonna say it's a good thing, but it changes you.
Get yelled at. Bear yells at me Very little,
I'm supportive.
because he knows I'll just leave.
Well, that's the thing. It's like coaching. It's like teaching. You got to adapt to different friends. You know, you can't yell at everybody.
Yeah, I don't respond to it at all. Yeah, it's my parents.
I have other people that do. See?
That's why I think that's a big reason why I just am really diving into art, because I feel like if I'm ever at a job where there's a manager yelling at me, I'd have to yell back. I don't have it in me. It's not there. I'm a really quiet, kind of unpresuming guy, but I just don't do it. I don't take
I've seen
it.
you yell at people.
I go crazy. I have
I'm
it
just
at
crazy, guys.
my mother's side of the family is like, don't let anyone talk down to you. Be really crazy. I think those are the two rules. So
It's
I kind
worked
of
out.
have to be my own boss.
Do you yell at yourself?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is like a whirlwind over here.
Nice.
Just of emotion and pain and tears. And I like to imagine other artists are just kind of sitting there drawing. I'm like talking to myself, making noises. Gotta have on the right kind of music.
Just screaming internally.
Yeah, constantly like twirling around in my chair. I do scream sometimes whenever I'm drawing.
I just imagine Todd downstairs. Ah!
Right, you're drawing a wizard throwing a fireball. Just yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh.
And next week you can download our voice pack for Baldur's Gate.
That's true. We should create.
Huh! Huh!
Oh, I should record myself. Actually, if you go, so I'm a big fan of Mad Men. If you go to YouTube, you can look up Roger Sterling's office, and it's just it's a 1 hour. They have a 1 hour track of just the sounds of an office building that they used for Mad Men. And it's kind of mesmerizing to listen to, because it's just Roger like shuffling papers while you can hear typewriters wandering around, or like clearing his voice. And I would love to do that, like the sound of an artist's studio for an hour.
Mine
should
would not
record
be
it.
pleasant.
You should really record it.
Okay, I will.
No, just keep the music in your ears and record it. I would be very interested.
Everyone can look forward to me live streaming once I get the figure going on this next painting.
How are you gonna do that?
Yep, I'm working out the gradient. Hopefully tonight it'll be done.
I gotta get back to work. Actually, I gotta go to the grocery store.
Go do that, man.
I gotta do a lot of stuff. I have a lot of Alan stuff to do today. This is gonna be a wash. I see it coming. Hopefully I'll paint tonight, but probably not. I gotta really invigorate myself. I gotta get nutritioned up to go to the
Alan's
gym
gotta
tomorrow.
get nutrition to everybody.
Nutritioned. It takes a lot of eggnog. Of course, it is the Christmas season. I'm not gonna be here next week. I've made that call.
Alan's not gonna be here, everybody.
I want Bear to do it by himself with someone else.
I'm gonna record by myself completely.
Oh God.
There's gonna be me and a guest next week. You'll be ready for that. It'll be a wild time, I promise.
Bear and Bear. Get Kelsey on.
We'll get
your
Kelsey
wife
on
on.
here. She'll
Get your-
just be really upset and she won't say anything.
You ask her questions. How is it to be married to an artist? And then just silence.
That's how it is every day. I don't think
Oh.
she's talked in the last month. I don't know.
Whew, well,
Working on that one. Don't worry about me, guys. Like, I'm fine.
right. Wow. Sorry to hear that. Anyway, that's our show. If you liked what you heard, if you want to be on our show, if you have any critiques, comments, if you want to be on the show, did I already say that? Hanging Out podcast at gmail.com. Hanging Out with Bear and Alan at facebook.com. I'm Alan Morris, alanmorrisart.com.
I'm Bear Isles, BearIslesArt.com, at Bear the Painter.
What? At Bear
Yeah.
the Painter? I guess mine's at Alan Morris Art. I forget I have an Instagram. You can find me anywhere, actually.
Find us everywhere.
We did give you our actual addresses one week. So if you If you really don't like us, send some hate mail.
Come find us.
Or come find us. We'd love to take
Come
you
fight
out.
me. I'd love to
Oh.
fight you.
God, it's really going downhill over there, huh?
Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.